resistance test. This is the test that is carried out in order to determine whether your container is fit to be used for parental products or not. There are two tests that have been carried out as I showed you in IP, that is test 1 and test 2. Test 1 and test 2 are basically carried out in order to distinguish your type 3 container from your type 1 and type 2 container. So your type 1 and type 2 containers can be distinguished from your type 3 container, okay, with the help of your test 1. Whereas test 2, it is carried out to differentiate between type 1 and type 2 container, okay, where it is necessary to determine that whatever this hydrolytic resistance has been obtained from type 1 test, okay, whether it is due because of chemical composition, because in type 1 the chemical composition is different and because of that you get hydrolytic resistance, or whether it is because of surface treatment, that is sulfur dioxide. If you remember, we give sulfur dioxide treatment to type 3 glass. Because of the treatment to the type 3 glass with sulfur dioxide, it becomes a little bit resistant. So whether this hydrolytic resistance is been obtained because of this surface treatment, or whether this hydrolytic resistance is obtained as in type 1 because of the chemical composition, okay, because it is a borosilicate glass that you are going to find out from your test 2. So test 1 differentiates between type 1, type 2 and type 3 glass. So you separate type 3 from type 1 and type 2, whereas test 2 differentiates your type 1 and type 2 glass, okay. If you want to remember it in your own terms, okay, that is how you can remember it, right? So let us go for the type 1 class. Now, as I showed you, there are no subtopics as I have given over here. So I have given the subtopic as number of containers. As such, there are no subtopics that are given. I have just made it for you to understand, so that you have a proper sequence in order to remember it. So first of all, how much number of containers you are going to take? You have to select the number of containers for the test. So IP has given you the table. It talks about if the volume of the container is up to 3 ml. That is from 1 to 3 ml is the volume of the container. In such cases, okay, once the volume of container is from 1 to 3 ml, okay, then the number of containers that you are going to take for this test are how much? 20. If the volume of the container is 5 or less, that is 3 to 5, okay, the volume is between 3 to 5 of the container, then you are going to take 10 containers. If the volume 5 containers, and if the volume is more than 30, then you are going to take 3 containers. This is at least you are going to take, okay, at least 20 containers you are going to take, at least 10 containers you are going to take, at least 5 containers you are going to take, or at least 3 containers you are going to take for the test, okay. This part we will be studying later on. Just remember the number of containers. So as the ml increases, okay, number of containers that you are going to take for test also decreases from 20 to 3, okay. That is the number of containers that you are going to take for the test. Moving ahead, for the now you have selected the number of containers. Let us move ahead for the cleaning procedure, okay. How you are going to clean this container that you have taken? First, if there is any debris or any dust on the containers, you are going to remove that. Then you are going to rinse the container, okay. You are going to rinse the container twice with water at room temperature. Then what you are going to do is, okay, just before the test is been carried out, you are again going to rinse the container, okay, with distilled water. Now earlier you are doing it just with water. Now you are going to do it with distilled water, and then you are going to allow it to drain, okay. So whatever are the surface impurities that are there that are getting removed from the container, okay. Now this cleaning procedure, starting from the rinsing up to the end, should be carried out in not less than 20 minutes and not more than 25 minutes. Why this standard has been given? So that you should not carry out the rinsing procedure just in 1 or 2 minutes and then leave it. Okay, you want to carry out this procedure for a longer period of time, so that the containers are whatever containers, that is maybe the ampoules, maybe the vials, okay, or it may be cartridge. So whatever containers you are taking for testing, okay, those are getting totally cleaned. Hence, you are going to carry out this cleaning procedure for near about from in between 20 to 25 minutes, right? Then what you're going to do is you're going to fill this container. Okay. If it is an ampoule, you're going to fill it up to the brim. If it is a vial, you're going to fill it up to the brim. If it is a glass bottle, you're going to fill it up to the brim. So you're going to fill the container up to the brim. Okay, totally. And then with the help of distilled water, and then you are going to empty it. Okay, in a graduated cylinder. Okay, and then you are going to find out the average overflow volume. This average overflow volume that you are determining here is going to be used further. Okay, so you are going to determine the average overflow volume. So this is the in the first step what we have done is we have selected the number of containers depending upon the ml, isn't it? So depending upon the ml, we selected number of containers. Whatever containers we have selected, now we have cleaned it. How we have cleaned it? First, we have removed all the debris. We have rinsed it with twice with normal water. We have rinsed it finally with your distilled water before the test. We have tried to dry it. We have tried to remove all the water that was present on the container. We have dried it. Okay, and then this we said that this cleaning procedure should be carried out for near. We have containers up to the brim with distilled water, and we have emptied this water inside the graduated cylinder, and we have checked the overflow average volume of that container, right? We have said this average volume is going to be required by us for further studies, right? Let us move ahead. Now in the next step what we are going to carry out is the filling of container, and then we are going to carry out the autoclaving of it, right? So what we are now going to do is we are going to heat the container on the water bath. Supposing if it is ampoule, then we are going to pack the ampoules properly. We have to close the ampoules properly so that they are the water, the steam does not go inside the ampoule itself. So what we are going to do is we are going to heat the ampoules either on a water bath or on a air oven, okay, or in an oven at about 50 degrees Celsius, so that whatever water is been associated with it gets removed, and now the container becomes totally dry. Then what you are going to do is you are now going to fill the ampoule. If it is filling of ampoule, then the quantity that you are going to fill it with distilled water, okay, is near about the maximum volume that allows it to be easily sealed. Because I have told you that the if you are sealing the ampoule and it is wet at the brim, okay, at the top, at the tip, then the ampoule cracks, isn't it? So up till whatever the volume is you can fill, you are going to fill it up to that volume. If it is a bottle or a vial, then the volume that you are going to fill is 90% of your overflow volume that you have calculated earlier. So whatever overflow volume that you have got in your previous step, okay, of that 90%, you are going to fill in the bottles or vials. In case of ampoule, you are going to fill it up to the maximum volume that makes it easily sealable. Okay. And in case of bottles or vial, you are going to fill 90% of the overflow volume that you have calculated. In case of ampoule, what you are going to do is once you fill it, you are going to do the sealing of it with the help of glass. You can do the pull seal or you can do the tip seal. If it is the bottles or vials, you are not going to apply the rubber stopper over there. What you are going to do is you are going to cover them with the borosilicate glass, or you are going to cover it with the aluminum foil, right? Which is previously rinsed with the distilled water. Got it? This is how you are going to now fill the ampoules, and you are going to seal the ampoules. You are going to fill the bottles or you are going to seal the bottles. Then what you are going to do is you are going to place all these containers in an autoclave. Okay, right? Containing water. So this autoclave should contain water. You are going to place your all the containers. Number of containers I have already told you. How much containers you have to take, how much containers you have to seal. depends upon the number of containers. So you can take 20 containers, here you can take 10 containers, you can take 5 containers, or you can take 3 containers, depending upon the volume. Okay, that you are going to fill, and that you are going to keep it in autoclave containing water, so that in such a way that it remains clear of water. Okay, understood? Next, what you're going to do is, you are now going to, after placing it in an autoclave, you have filled the containers. Okay, you have placed it in an autoclave, you are going to close the autoclave. And then what you're going to do, in the first 10 minutes, you are going to displace the air that is present in an autoclave by the passage of heat. In the next 20 minutes, you are going to raise the temperature of that autoclave from 100 to 121. In the next 60 minutes, you are going to maintain the temperature of that autoclave at 121 degrees Celsius. In the next 40 minutes, okay, you are going to reduce the temperature of that autoclave from 121 to 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, so you are going to raise the temperature from 100 degrees Celsius, okay, up to 121 degrees Celsius. You are going to maintain it for 60 minutes, and again from 121, again you are going to bring it down to 100. Okay, that is how you are going to change the temperature inside the autoclave. That is how you are going to maintain the temperature condition inside the autoclave. Once the cycle of 10, 20, 60 and 40 minutes is completed, then you are going to remove the containers and you are going to cool them in the bath of running tap water. So you are going to remove the container and you are going to cool the container. So what we have done is, we have selected the number of containers. The selected number of containers, we have cleaned it properly, and after cleaning the container, we have filled the container with water. Okay, we have sealed the containers as per the procedure, and then we have autoclave, and then we have maintained the temperature inside the autoclave. Moving further now, what we are going to do is, in the next step, now we are going to carry out the sampling and we are going to do the collection of the sample, right? So how we are going to do this? Now we are going to carry out the titration within 1 hour. So ये सारा procedure आपका होने के बाद within 1 hour, what you are going to do is, you are going to carry out the titration, right? In that case, what you are going to do is, now you have taken number of containers. You have taken either 20 containers, either you have taken 10 containers, either you have taken 5 containers, or you have taken 3 containers. Now all these containers you have filled with water. So now you are going to open the container, and from these containers, you, whatever water was there, which you have put it into the autoclave, isn't it, distilled water, that you are going to remove it in a conical flask, right? And then out of that, whatever water you have removed, after that you are now going to carry out the titration, isn't it? For titration, the quantity that you are going to take is also been mentioned in IP. If you have the container up to 3 ml, then the quantity for titration you are going to take is 25. If you have the container quantity as 5 ml, then you are going to take 50 ml for titration. If it is between 6 to 30, then you are going to take 50 ml for titration again. And if it is more than 30 ml, then you are going to take 100 ml for titration. Okay. How will you carry out the titration now? So what you have done is, whatever the autoclaving was done, after autoclaving, you have removed the containers. From that containers, you have emptied those containers, right? And then from that, you have taken a specific volume ranging from 25 to 100, okay, depending upon the capacity of your container. Okay, you have taken the volume, and in that you have added the indicator, that is red solution. What is the quantity of indicator that you are going to add? The quantity of indicator that you are going to add is 0.15 ml for 50 ml of liquid. Common sense, if you are taking 25 ml of liquid, then you are add half of this. If you are going to take 50 ml, then you are going to add 0.15, and if you are taking 100 ml, okay, then you are going to add double of this quantity, that is 0.30 ml of methyl red solution you are going to add to this solution, okay, which is going to act as an indicator. In the next step, what you're going to do is now you're going to carry out the titration. In order to carry out the titration, you are going to titrate your sample, which we feel may be containing alkali, which may be leached out from your parent, from the container type 1 and type 2 container, or maybe type 3 container, whatever the container was. From that container, the alkali has been leached out. It has come inside the distilled water. Okay, when you're carrying out the autoclaving, etc., which you have now collected. So it contains alkali in which you have added methyl red, and now you are going to titrate it with 0.01 molar hydrochloric acid. If you remember, yesterday when we carried out the test as per USP, okay, in powdered glass test, okay, we we carry out the titration against H2SO4, if you remember, sulfuric acid. Here we are going to carry out the titration with 0.01 molar hydrochloric acid. Okay, so you are going to carry out the titration for sample, and you are going to repeat the operation, okay, the titration with freshly prepared distilled water. You are going to find out the difference between them. What is the reading over here and what is the reading that is obtained from distilled water, which is not added inside your container and which has not been autoclaved. Okay, normal freshly prepared distilled water. With that also you are going to carry out these tests. Okay, the difference between these two, okay, that is the sample and the blank, okay, will give you the volume of hydrochloric acid required for the test solution. And then you have the limits over here. Okay, for the capacity of container, okay, which corresponds to near about 90% of the overflow volume, if the capacity of container is not more than 1 ml, then the volume of hydrochloric acid required for type 1 or type 2 should be 2 ml. Okay, if you are saying it is a type 1 or type 2 glass, okay, the type 1 or type 2 glass passes the test if the volume of H2S hydrochloric acid is required is 2 ml. Okay, the difference between, after calculating the difference, the volume that is required is 2 ml, right? Further, what you have to do is further remember this is for 100 ml. So if you have taken 25 ml of sample, okay, then whatever readings you have to multiply it by 4 times. If you have taken 50 ml of sample, so whatever readings you have got over here, you have to double it. And if you have taken 100 ml, then no question. Okay, so for 1 ml, the limit for type 1 type 2 glass is 2 ml, and for type 3 glass it is 20 ml. If it is between 1 to 2, this is the quantity of ml that is required. Between 2 to 5 it is 1.3, between 5 to 10 it is 1, and so on and so forth. Okay, right? So as the quantity increases, okay, the capacity of the container increases, the volume of HCl required, okay, it decreases. Okay, you can see over here the table, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to calculate the volume of 0.1 ml hydrochloric acid required for each 100 ml test solution, and then you're going to compare it, with the limits. Okay, and whatever results you get should not be greater than what are mentioned over here. Is it clear? Test number 1, is it clear? If any problem, please do ask me. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so understood this? Anybody has not understood? Anybody who wants me to repeat? Anybody who wants me to repeat? Or shall I go to test 2 now, if I have understood everything? Shall I go to test 2? Okay, fine. There is no one who is saying that he has not understood. So I'll go for test 2, right? Now, test 2, as I told you earlier, it is carried out for type 1 and type 2 glass container, where it is necessary to determine whether the high hydroelectric resistance that is that is there in type 1 and type 2 glass. We have seen that the hydraulic resistance is higher in type 1 and type 2 glass, that we have seen in our earlier experiment, right, in test number 1. Now, whether this hydraulic resistance is high because of the chemical composition, or whether it is high because of the surface treatment, that is of sulfur dioxide. So because of sulfur dioxide, this you are getting high hydraulic resistance, or whether it is getting because of the chemical composition only is different. Okay, because of that you are getting the high resistance. Now, step number 1, that is number of containers are similar. So whatever number of containers we are taking for test 1, the same number of containers you are going to take over here also. In the step 2, what you're going to do is you're going to rinse the container twice with water. Okay. In the next step now, okay, in step C, which is different, you are going to fill, okay, these containers completely with 4% volume by volume of hydrofluoric acid solution. Okay. Now, why we are using hydrofluoric acid solution for this test is the question, right? Now, hydrofluoric acid is used because hydrofluoric acid glasses, hydrofluoric acid solution. This hydrofluoric acid solution, okay, acts on the glass, okay, and if sulfur dioxide is present over here, if it has a coating of sulfur dioxide, then this sulfur dioxide coating gets removed because of this HF, because this HF has the ability of removing this oxygen and getting itself placed over here. So this F is getting placed over here, and because as this F is getting placed over here, right, and this oxygen is getting removed, that's why this sulfur dioxide coating gets removed from the surface of the glass, right? So if it is because of surface treatment, then HF is going to remove your, what I said, your SO2 from it, right? So what you're going to do is, so you're going to fill it with hydrofluoric acid solution, 4% hydrofluoric acid solution, and you're going to allow it to stand at room temperature for 10 minutes, so that this HF reacts with SO2 that is present over here as the surface treatment, okay, and it is going to remove it. If it is a type 1 glass, okay, then type 1 glass is not going to get affected by this hydrofluoric acid. Are you understanding? Hydrofluoric acid. So if it is a type 1 glass, nothing is going to happen to it. It is going to remain sturdy and good. If then it is going to get affected by a hydrofluoric acid, and this type 2 glass is going to be converted now into your type 3 glass. Are you understanding? So your type 1 is not getting affected with this hydrofluoric acid, your type 2 is getting affected with this hydrofluoric acid, and SO2 is getting and sulfur dioxide is getting removed from here, and it is now converting into your type 3 glass. Okay, so that is why you carry out this treatment with hydrofluoric acid. I was just telling you why this hydrofluoric acid is being used, right? Then what you are going to do is you are going to empty the containers and that are containing hydrofluoric acid. You are going to remove this hydrofluoric acid and you are going to rinse it carefully 5 times. You are going to remove all the hydrofluoric acid that is present inside the container. Then you are going to carry out the same procedure, okay, that you had done in hydrolytic resistance, and then you will compare the results that were obtained in type 1. So you have taken some containers, you have taken some 5 containers just for an example, and when you have taken 5 containers, in that 5 containers you had got some ml, isn't it, of HCl, right, after titration. Again in test 2, again you have taken from the same batch, you have taken 5 containers, Okay. Now you have found that it is having good hydraulic resistance. In your test 1, you have found that it is having a good hydraulic resistance. So it is either a type 1 or type 2 glass. From the same batch, you have now taken again 5 containers. Okay. But here now you have done the treatment of HF. And now again, you have done the same procedure, that is for hydraulic resistance test. And again, you have carried out the ML. Okay. Are you understanding? This is what you are doing. So you are going to carry out the procedure that is described under your hydrolytic resistance. And then you are going to compare the results. Okay. That is your results that are obtained by test 1 and results that are obtained by test 2. You are going to compare both of them. Right? Table पहले ही आपको दिया हुआ है. Now what happens if it is a type 1 glass? If it is a type 1 glass, then the volumes obtained after HF treatment are similar, okay, to that stated in table type 1 and type 2 glass. Okay, there is no change that you are observing. Whereas for type 2 glass, okay, which is a soda lime glass treated with SO2 fumes, right? Type 3, when you treat with soda lime, when you treat it with SO2 fumes, it converts into type 2 glass. So for type 2 glass, the values obtained with hydrofluoric acid, okay, treated container exceeds. Why it is exceeding? Because now the SO2 has been removed. The surface coating, the surface treatment has been removed. So now if there is a glass with hydrolytic resistance and this glass after your test 2, okay, after your test 2, it is showing increased resistance, then you are going to say it was a type 2 glass. Okay. Or you have carried out the test 1, you have found out it is a hydrolytic resistance glass, you carry out test 2, and after that you see there is no change in ml, it is not exceeding, then you are going to say it is a type 1 glass. Understood this? Okay. So it greatly exceeds, okay, and it matches with the type 3 glass. So whatever the results for type 3, this glass matches with that resistance because it is for surface treatment. So this is how you are going to distinguish between your hydrolytic resistant glass between type 1 and type 2.